Hello, I'm coming to you from my sanctuary, the woods, and light rain is falling at this moment. We're expected to get heavy winds and a gale warning, which usually means the power goes out over the next 24 hours. But right now it is very peaceful, not a flicker of wind in the trees. So that's why I'm walking now while I still can. And apologies for the fact I can't see out of my left eye because my glasses are fogging up. I just wanted to, before I present my knits and things I've been working on this past 2 weeks, I just want to let you know I have a goal of producing a vlog every 2 weeks on Monday when I don't have work, and unless something earth-shattering happens and I actually get a job that has benefits, then I will continue to have Mondays off. And while everyone is working, it just feels like such a peaceful time to rejuvenate myself. And I wanted to focus on a quote that has just popped into my mind from years ago that I read by a writer in the 1700s named George Coleman, Colman. I can't vouch for any of his writings. I have not read them, but there was a quote that really resonated with me that says, "Praise the bridge that carried you over." And when times get tough and there's so much turmoil happening right now in our country, I think it can benefit me and it can benefit others to reflect on the people that were the bridge to carry you through your life, and people and happenings. It doesn't have to be people. In fact, it could be like an animal at times. But when I do that and I kind of flip the script from feeling like the sky is falling and like everything is at risk, which it may be, we don't know yet. I just find this to be a really powerful exercise to praise the bridge that carries us over. So I will talk about a few points in my life where, on reflection, I realize that a person was extremely significant to just getting me through a very tough time. And since resilience is so needed at this time, and understanding how we can be a bridge for each other is so important right now, I thought I would just do that while I knit a bit. So part of my vlog will be sharing the work that I've done, the finished, what do they call them? FOs, finished objects in the knitting world. And then I would like to do like maybe a half hour of just knitting and sharing these stories. So I will see you. Hello. I am so happy to have finished my loom sweater, and it's what everybody's making these days. I absolutely love this pattern, and it was a labor of love. The only thing that I don't care for, I love the pattern, but I would like to see about choosing a different yarn for my skin tone, different color. And so I'm actually thinking about, I think this color, which is called chai, it's more like a yellowish golden brown. And I honestly think it would look great on someone with dark skin, who might look good in yellowish orangish tones. So if anyone out there might actually like this to be gifted, I am thinking about doing that and then possibly making myself another one. But it was really fun to work on, and it's actually one of the first, it's my second sweater that I made now that fits me. So if you're a very petite person, this would be very oversized on you. But if you're probably average, I don't know what's average American woman right now, but um, you could probably make this would just be maybe slightly large on you. I'm not sure. Um, but it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous motif. And Sari Nordland is the designer. And I did treat myself to this Christmas to her book called Softly, her book of patterns. And I hope to make a cardigan out of that book. And so let's see. The other finished object that I have is, I know I already showed these, but next weekend I will be going back to Port Townsend to have these as samples in their store. In Bazaar Girls is the name of the store, yarn store. And these are my own patterns, hat patterns, knit in Blue Sky Fibers wool stock. And once I washed it, the last time I showed these, the wool wasn't washed, but it blooms so well, and all the any kind of blemishes in the or unevenness in the color work just completely washes out, and almost feels felted in a way, as just very subtle, not really true felting. But so if you do choose to make this pattern with fairly long floats, you just be reassured that once you wash this wool, it will bloom and kind of make a wonderful fabric. This is my fiddlehead beanie, and as mentioned before, I added a few of these unfurling ferns to make the color work easier. And Carrie, the owner of the Bazaar Girls, one of the owners, had offered to, not offered, is interested in me potentially teaching a class on carrying long floats in stranded color work, because I seem to be drawn to patterns that do that, even though it can, if you do it long enough, it can really hurt your hands, at least for me personally. The way that I do this stranded color work is by holding one strand on one side of my knuckle, on the forefinger, and the other color on the other side of my knuckle. And holding your finger in this position for hours is really not healthy. I've found there are times where my entire finger just starts swelling up and turns red. And at that point, I'm like, oh, okay, enough knitting, a stranded color work. So I'm not sure if that is the best way to do it for long projects. Or long knitting times, but if you take enough breaks, and there are many different ways to do stranded color work. So that's just the way that I choose to do it, that I found to be easier to make the wraps. So let me just, for non-knitters, I'll just show you a bit of, if you look at the inside of a fabric, this is what we mean by carrying floats. Where the yarn that is not the motif that you want showing through is carried behind the other yarn. And there's a way to wrap that yarn as you go so that it carries it behind the dominant color that will appear on the front. So that's what we're talking about as far as floats for non-knitters, just to explain. Okay, so that's exciting that I will have kits available with my patterns soon, with those patterns. And I have, let's see, I really want to learn how to insert pictures on my videos so that I can show you patterns and ideas that I have. But I am going to make something left over with this gorgeous Highland wool from Hobbii, which is a Denmark company in Denmark. And I highly recommend. This is actually sold at like a DK weight. So it's like number 3 on the ranking system of yarn weights. But I think it's so thin, I think it could be used as fingering weight. It does bloom, but I made an incredible baby blanket for my cousin's baby out of this. And that's what I would love to be able to insert a photo of. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous color, and the feel of this wool is it's non-superwash, and it is just absolutely luscious. Oh yeah, and by the way, this I made from Barocco Vintage Chai color, and then the white is actually some Navia I had left over. I think that's how you pronounce it, Navia, from the Faroese, wool that's from the Faroese Islands. And so this, I would love to make this make this sweater in this color with a pale, and then possibly using different colors for different sections of the motif, like a green here, maybe for these leaves, and then like a white, or what's that called, like oatmeal type color. Okay, I know I showed this before, but I just am having some thoughts about this. I wanted to see if anyone has opinions. I absolutely love, this is called Hello from My Colors, and it is by Jessie Made Designs. And it is, I absolutely love when I pooled a bunch of my scrap yarns of fingering weight yarn together. It actually is just, to me, it gives me chills, this type of color combinations. But what happens when you have so many colors going around, and you're changing colors, I have not figured out a good way to blend them when you are making that change, so that the inside has, every color change is just like a complete mess inside, because you have the ends of everything, and there's so many ends that I'm almost wondering. I was thinking, I've never done a steek before, which is cutting into knitted fabric, and you often see that with stranded color work cardigans, where the opening is steeked, but it is knit in a tube, in the round. And so I was almost thinking of steeking this, like putting some kind of stitches around this pattern, around this section, going in and maybe sewing, I don't know, crocheting or something, and then steeking it, and then reattaching it in some manner that would be more uniform. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it, and I was thinking this would actually make a great cardigan type thing, if I were to do this pattern again. I am planning to just make the sleeves, which are just on these holders and look really funky right now, in a blue color similar to this. And so it'll be a really funky color work. I'm thinking of possibly giving it to my daughter. So, how shout out to my daughter. If she wants it, if she cares for it, I don't know. And then I have progress on my dad's massive lap blanket. I think I have put in probably about a foot since the last time I showed it. But I mean, this is a 6 foot man, so I'm trying to do maybe another 2 feet. But it is just so warm and wonderful, and this is Barrett wool out of Wisconsin. It's just a really great for cables. Believe it's worsted spun, so it pops with cables stitching, and I just really I love it. But it, as any knitter knows, cabling goes so slow, and that's why it took me 2 weeks to with everything else I have going on. So what I found was that I've been joining some great knitting groups online, and I found that I end up having to take out everything that I work on while I'm knitting and chatting with folks, because I'm just not paying attention while I'm in community. So I finally found this blanket that I had put away for, how blankets are, people just stick them in a closet, don't think about them for a while because they're just such massive projects. And so often they just get something that you can work on bit by bit. And I realized this is all garter stitch, and this is the perfect thing that I really can't mess up when I'm talking in a group, or meeting in a knitting group. So I just wanted to share, this is lovely, square by square, and you just add triangle by triangle, and so I thought I would work on this a bit while I talk about that idea that I was mentioning in the woods about praising the bridge that carries you over. So when hold on, I gotta find a starting place if I'm gonna knit and chat. And I'm hoping that whoever is watching this out there, if anyone is, that you would do the same and just be working on something while I tell these stories, because I'm not sure how interesting they are to anyone, but I just love the idea of reflecting on praising the bridge that got you to where you are in life, wherever that may be. In so many ways, I've lived sort of I don't even know how to describe it, but my life has been a little bit out of I hate to say norm, because what is normal? But I just often find myself, like when I was working a night shift, for example, the rest of the world was working day shift. When I was working from home, the rest of the world was out working. Then the pandemic hit, and everybody was starting to live my lifestyle, which was fairly isolated and working from home. So I guess I'm just saying I'm fairly comfortable with being like swimming against the flow, I guess you could say. And so I've had a lot of experiences in life that have taught me resilience, And I feel like, knitting is one piece of that, one skill of resilience. It's can be very, very healthy and very, let me see if I can angle this better too, so that my hands, so I can actually show you knitting while I'm knitting, if that makes sense. Like, okay, there. So, yeah, so I thought I would start with one incredible person that came into my life at a time when I really needed them. I was in high school. Throughout high school, I wore a back brace that for scoliosis, for a curvature in the spine, and that exempted me from being able to play sports. At that time, I felt like innately had potential to be an athlete in a way. I was very active and interested in. I believe I walked 4 miles a day to and from school, and I always walked everywhere anyway, all my life. But I just think I would have enjoyed an athletic outlet, and I was exempted from that with this back brace. And it just so happened that my high school had 1,200 people or so in it, and there happened to be two years older than me, a student who also wore a back brace. Out of all those 1,200 kids, we were the only two. And she was a really remarkable person. And to this day, I just feel like when someone enters your life at a time where you're extremely alone, feel alone and isolated, and like you're on some other planet, to have someone that walks alongside you can be just so, so powerful. And she actually started a nonprofit at that time. This was years ago, of course, because it's when I was in high school. And it ended up getting sponsorship by Easter Seals, which is a nonprofit for people with disabilities. And so she asked me, she has such a powerful natural leadership capacity. And she asked me to co-lead these monthly support groups, and communicated with physicians in the area about this. And so we ended up having gatherings every month with people that had curvature of the spine, scoliosis, for any reason whatsoever, and many different forms of disability, or syndromes, like different cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy. Those type of diagnoses can often come along with a curve in the spine. And so we ended up meeting just many dozens of people that were in our city, and just all supporting one another, even though we each had different circumstances. And that was just such a powerful model that I experienced firsthand, and that I'm so grateful for. And yeah, I think of her to this day. She passed very young, sadly, but I just think it's amazing to reflect on, how is it that someone just pops into your life at the right moment and is the bridge that helps carry you through that patch of your life. And then when I so I was fairly wearing a being encased in a plastic back brace all through high school, when you're at a time when your body is naturally changing, um, just kind of set in motion this like mind body split in me. It had that effect of doing that psychologically. And I also just was not aware at all of my physical strength, because it was so kept from me. So once I went to college, um, I I'm skipping over my first year of college. I was actually in a music conservatory. I'll save that story for another day. But this is what I mean by my life has been fairly unorthodox, I guess you could say. Um, and so after I quit music, not completely, but quit seeking professional um, experience with music, I um, I attended a school in Portland, Oregon, that had a fledgling college outdoors program, which to this day is now mandatory, I believe, for all freshmen to do a college outdoors experience. But at the time when I was there, it was actually the first year they were doing it, and they had like camping equipment in an old bathroom. It was just so not funded yet, and not it was one man's like vision basically to create this program. And also this was before cell phones existed, and before there was a sense of liability, where uh, today the schools have to take on so much liability for having their students just trek all over the place. And so at that time, I was able to go on many countless outdoors treks. And one of them was the most ground earth shaking for me personally, was 10 days in river rafting the San Juan River in Utah, in the Four Corners area between New Mexico, Utah, Arizona. And that the land and the river and the canyon runs and the hiking up to a canyon bed, like an empty riverbed, and sleeping at the top of a canyon in full moonlight. These are some of the memories I have, with a group of people where that were intergenerational. So there were two women who were on that trip who were in their 60s, and I'm this 20-year-old college student. And they both told me that at one point in the 10 days that they thought I didn't know my own strengths, and that always just stuck with me and has carried me through. So I think it's those experiences, those people that come into your life and really help show you your own capacity to build on, and like see something in you that you do not see at the time. So that was another example of praise the bridge that carries you over. And then the most significant one that has so many people to praise is how people responded when my then 4-year-old child, my only child, was diagnosed with cancer and went through 2.5 years of treatment. And there were just the experiences I had of being on the side of compassion from other people rather than being the person who's donating to different causes. It completely restored any doubts I had in humanity and in people's really good heart, just baseline willingness to help others. And I just experienced it in so many levels that I can't even. I mean, there were so many different people that came step forward that I can't even name them all. Um, but I do know that my rural community where I live now to this day, this was 20 years ago that I'm talking about, but right at the beginning of it all, they hosted a fundraiser with her preschool, and the whole entire community pitched in, and I was able to live off of, while I was being her primary caregiver, I was able to live off of the donations from that year. And I'll just never, that's not something you can ever really thank people enough, and you just carry it with you, and you just hope that when other people are at their lowest, that they experience similar, hands being extended to them and people stepping forward. Another shout out I'd like to give is to my community's food bank, which I have relied on in the past. And I believe it is time now, the way things are headed with inflation and my low income, is to go back to utilizing my food bank. But that food bank had been, both as a volunteer that I was there and as a recipient, and it's just an incredible model, where it started out as in the 1980s as a system where people would donate their goods like clothing, household goods, into a thrift store, and then the thrift store earnings or profit would go back into buying the food for the food bank. And when I first moved to this county that I'm in, and I had my young toddler child, I they actually had the food bank where you had to walk through the thrift store to this little window in the back that was cut into a door, like one of those half doors that opens. And so you were kind of like publicly noticed if you wanted to access the food bank. And they were thinking about, like, how can we change this so there's not any stigma attached to seeking this help. And at that point, I remember I volunteered to help. As I was being given help, I always had that instinct to try to return the favor. And I spent many days like filling bags up for people, basically, because they would just hand you a bag that was just set amount of donations that they had. And now it's a model where people from other states even come here to see it, because it has, I believe they're able to, I, I shouldn't say, like, don't take my word for this if you're interested in this, but I'm just saying roughly a third of the produce that they have is grown in their own garden now. And it's fabulous. Like, you almost can't get better produce than that in a store. And so during the growing season, you have access to fresh produce, and they have a point system where families can just push a shopping cart through the food bank with shelves, just like you would see in a grocery store. And every family is allotted a certain number of points based on the number of people in their household and their need level. And then the people walk through and just choose what they want based on points. And unhealthier foods are put at a higher point level, so that to discourage people from actually choosing or having a limit on the most unhealthy foods. Gosh, I'm not thinking. So that is another thing that really helped get me through years of being a single parent. And so, yeah, I think this could be a helpful exercise for anyone to just consider to praise the bridge that carried them over. And what else is there to say? Oh, some exciting news in my world is that I after I think I mentioned I had applied to over 200 jobs over the past year with no luck, and I had even an interview. I was really interested in that position at a hospital, did not get that, and mostly because I have spent about a total of probably 4 to 5 years in the cancer world, between my daughter and my own cancer, as far as volunteering and also being in treatment and witnessing it, that both pediatric and adult. I have wanted to use that experience to benefit others if I can. And so that's why I continue to apply to different positions that could use that kind of empathy. And I have a broad understanding of medical language since I transcribed medical patient records for 20 years. And so what's exciting now is that I applied to a certificate program in technical writing. I have an English degree, so from way back when, and I'm just hoping that this 8-month certificate program could help position me and skill me to with a proven portfolio that you end up with at the end of the 8 months of work, so that I could be able to position myself better for a technical writing job, which I'm assuming with all of these societal changes going on, there will always be a need for tech writing. And it could also potentially, I'm thinking like some of the software I learn and techniques I learn about how to write instructions essentially for people, that would really help me with knitting pattern writing as well. And I could see a crossover of offering services as a tech editor, perhaps, because I've seen successful tech editors out there as well in the knitting world. And so I couldn't financially afford this program, this certificate program, but the Rotary Club, which is, a worldwide group, it offers scholarships for people who they feel can have a good chance of having their situation improved by being awarded the scholarship. And since I have been in pretty much the same financial plateau glass ceiling of my own for 30 years, and have any path I've tried to take to get past that has not worked, I am really thrilled that they just called me for an interview. So I'll be doing that. I mean, the Rotary folks for the scholarship did. So today is, what is it? The 24th, and I will be having it on March 1st. And so if all goes as I think it will, then I could have most of the cost of the program I'm in covered, and that would allow me to do this certificate program. So that's something that could be life-changing. Let's hope. Fingers crossed. Before I lose all light in the day, I wanted to just show you, since I can't figure out how to do inserts yet of a photo, I want to knit this. I'm not sure if you can actually see the details, but this cardigan is my next, once I'm done with all my current projects, and it is called The Botanist, and True story, I did want to be a botanist. I wanted to be so many things as a child. This is another photo. So, this is from a pattern by, the designer goes by Baby Cocktails, and I'm not sure what her, wait, let me just see if on this printed out. Oh, Tia Coleman, that's who it is. I knew it was like a person that I actually knew their name, but I'm horrible with people's names. Just, so if I forget anyone's name ever, that is why. Anyway, Tia Coleman is a wonderful designer, and this cardigan has just cabling in a block, kind of just down the shoulder, where the underside of the shoulder is all stockinette. And so I just love that look. It's not like, and then the rest of the cardigan is all this really interesting cable work. I'm sure it's complex and will take me a long time, but I had this Kelburn Woolens Scout in this hazelnut heather color, and this color, I am sure it doesn't come across perfectly on screen, but it has so much depth to it that when anyone who's seen it in person, they all comment on this color, even though, you know, I would think, oh, it's a brown or it's a tan, but it's got so many colors in it that and it's such springy wool. I recommend this Kelburn Woolen Scout. It is 100% non-superwash wool at 274 yards in a skein. It's really a good, quantity. And it's very squishy. And I had almost completed a Kate Davies sweater and then decided to take it all out. It was like such a fun project that I had signed up with a group of women who were all making the same sweater. And then when it got to the point of splitting for the sleeves, where the cable work started, or the texture work started going back and forth on flat rather than in the round, I got so confused on the pattern that I just ended up taking apart the whole thing. So I have this monster ball of the Hazelnut Scout, and I am going to make it into the botanist cardigan. And for years I've been just wanting to make the perfect cardigan for myself that can just be an impressive piece of knitwear, and I'm gonna do everything in my power to make this one fit me properly, because that's my main issue. Is I make things that I intend to be for myself, end up giving them away because they don't fit me well. So I'm gonna do all the mods that I need to do to make this work for me. And then, because it is the 3rd anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine, I wanted to mention that this is a wonderful pattern by Zanit Knits. I'm hopefully pronouncing that correctly. She is on Ravelry and has her patterns, and I've been wanting to make this sweater since 22, and as soon as I can obtain the wool, I will be making that and possibly raffling it for an organization that gives medic help to the front lines. Then I am also wanting to make, this is a brand new pattern from Jennifer Steingass, based on her Harvester sweater, and this is the Harvester cowl. And it's just a beautiful chart of feathers that go in a circle. She made this with Spin Cycle, where the color just gradually shifts, and it's just gorgeous on her sample. And since I'm not buying new yarn, here's another probably better image. Anyway, you can look this up, but I just wanted to have some image that I could show, even though I can't figure out how to insert photos. I will get help.
on my vlog. But so that's just my shares for what I'm thinking about doing and excited about in the future. All right, take care.